welcome to the Band Shot Podcast. Tonight we got Chris Farmer with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
How you doing?
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Just played through a couple songs.
Yeah. Finally drying off of all the sweat.
A little bit. I'm still.
Oh, yeah. Definitely fun, though. Definitely worth it.
A little put together at the last minute for us, but glad we could accompany you.
Guys, that was awesome. So much fun.
Yeah, I couldn't help but, when I was listening through your stuff, I'm just like, we need to see if he wants to have a backing band behind him.
Oh, I loved it. Best idea ever. Just especially because, like I said with you, I've never heard my songs that way, and it was like, okay, kind of. It's not even really reinvented, but kind of surrounded it with a little better full sound.
Yeah, it
something that would just be right up the center. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like I was telling you earlier about how it's like when I was listening to the videos that you had on Facebook, where it was like that newest one, the 2-chord song.
Yes.
That as I was listening to you do it, I was automatically my brain was already thinking of drum parts. So I was it got me the idea to be hey, I wonder if he wants.
But then in your head, you're like, this is just a 2-chord song. Come on, really?
Yeah, but it was fun. In fact, I think that's probably one of the ones that was most fun to play.
But that's why I like stuff like that too. Not even, label it down as to a 2-chord song. It could be as many chords as whatever. But to pause and let the drummer do his thing. I've always thought that's a very, well, obviously because I'm a drummer first.
Yeah,
that's always going to be
Tonight is actually the Drummers Roundtable.
It's the All Drummer Podcast.
Well, actually, last one was too. I think they were all drummers at one point.
Yeah, I think they all have played drums last time. Yeah.
Well, I'm not to oversimplify things, but in a song, really, sometimes you just need to pause. And the drummer does a fill, and it's as clean as that, and it sounds beautiful. I don't think there's any reason to mess with it.
There are a couple of moments in the songs where it was there's these perfect spots for just an all-out pause, period, where everybody just kind of there's that half.
Oh yeah,
yeah, or a 2-beat pause or something.
Yeah.
But
well, Zach and I've been playing together for so long. We read off each other so well, it's
I'm sure.
Second guess, or we don't have to second guess anything. We just know where each other's going. So.
Oh yeah, that was why when I said something to him about it, doing it, seeing if you'd be interested in doing it, I didn't think anything about I was I don't have to tell him anything as far as just here, listen to these, and he'll figure it out.
That's legit. That's awesome.
So, in fact, a lot of our songs are that way, where it's I just write something and then here, put something to this.
Oh yeah, free range, and he's gonna do it justice always. It's gonna be yeah. See, that's what bands should be. I hate when people are well, here, let me show you what I think it should sound like. It's okay, I understand, but when you throw in 2 different creative thinkings,
oh yeah,
it's gonna be. It's when people are okay, well, I like this vocalist from this band. So a lot of the bands that I have 2 vocalists, and they're singing over each other a lot, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things too.
Oh yeah, well, and it gets as somebody who writes a lot of stuff
they don't
by myself.
Overcarry each other.
A lot of things you tend to run into you build a box, and you start finding yourself repeating yourself.
Yeah,
when you're the only one writing and recording everything.
Yeah, and it's all
and then eventually it's didn't I just do this? Or I would write something and record it. I think, this sounds great, and then I would send it to him or my brother or whatever, and they'd be dude, this sounds exactly like this last 6 songs you did. You're repeating yourself, and I was I gotta get somebody else.
That was nice. Listening to your songs when Zach sent them to me. It's every single one of them's different.
Yeah, there's similarities to them, but they've all got their own kind of unique feel to them, I feel.
Oh yeah. There's quite a few that are different. Some of them, which too, I don't know how everybody does it, but some of my favorite bands have, just said this song might not sound like what we wrote off the full out, the other songs on the album, but that's just raw, and that's what we wrote when we were in the studio, and it's well. I do have a range of, like I said earlier, there's other songs that are in different tunings. My vocal range is obviously going to change with the tuning. Mm-hmm. I know some people don't do that. I like to do that. Mm-hmm. And some of them you would consider, a little bit more post-hardcore than probably the stuff that, as far as the vocals, like more upfront kind of.
Well, that's the thing. Like
open to yelling and screaming right off the gate and everything. That's cool with me.
That's something where we can kind of start with a topic-ish kind of thing too. Is that like some of the first times that I heard things with you was like some of the bands and things that you had been involved in before.
Okay, yeah.
And so like hearing you, I think part of why I loved your solo stuff so much is because it is so different. It's kind of the same. There's a little bit of the same flavor. Obviously, we all kind of have our own.
Well, yeah, we'll always carry on
flavor, but it's like hearing your stuff, your acoustic stuff on its own versus like what I've heard you do with the bands you've been in.
Yes,
like
it's more intimate.
Yeah, and it was like I felt like it suited you even better in another way, where it's like, oh, like you really showcase yourself a little bit more that way.
I feel like that's a lot when you have more hardcore and metal or more aggressive musicians, when they go to do an acoustic and stuff like that. It's like they're breaking that shield down and letting you into their their feelings and stuff like that. So it makes it a lot more intimate.
I've heard you get loud before.
Well, yeah.
And like
I've done
get into that, where you're full on screaming and stuff.
Yeah,
and, but it's I like listening to you in this form as well. Like it was something that just really caught my attention.
I'm not going to lie. A lot of the bands that have influenced me have opened to that too, because I've seen where people can, as we were talking earlier, go from soft to heavy and back to soft. You're kind of riding an emotional roller coaster through the song, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, I have a feeling too that like we probably, I won't say grew up, but kind of grew up in a certain time period listening to some of the same bands that were in that era. Especially like a
lot of same influences.
That early 2000s to like probably, maybe 2008, 2009-ish. Like I hear that in your stuff and it's like, it immediately takes me back to, those days. And it's like, oh yeah, I mean, that stuff is so good. And I think that was probably the first thing that for me that it's like, it caught my attention. I'm like, oh man, this reminds me so much of like, listening to old Dashboard stuff, and
I was gonna say Dashboard.
Like that's. I mean,
I love Dashboard.
Like early, like Further Seems Forever stuff. Like
Further Seems Forever.
It's like, it's just like that's what it reminded me of, and I'm like, it's probably why I'm so drawn to it because that was like, those were the years, like he can remember. Because we were living together during part of that time period. So
those were the years we barely had jobs, tried to scrounge up as much money as you could for a Warped Tour ticket, and then find somebody. Some of us had hair way too much back then, but had to find somebody to drive you to Warped Tour. Yep, that was good stuff. Good times. Too many good bands, and they all influence. I swear they influence everything we do. A lot of them. I don't know what it is. I've always been influenced by guitar, but the vocals, not only like the vocal pattern, like somebody's range, but knowing what they said. Here's another thing too. I've always been really hard with pronunciation.
Yeah, I noticed that with like listening to you. It's
when they're performing, I need to be able to make out every word that they said. Maybe they have an accent or a drawl or wherever, wherever they're from.
With our stuff because I just
it does, scream. Well, yeah, but still, even when you're screaming, I've also thought that's a good point. There's a lot of bands that they're still like real punctual, so you can even though they're screaming, if you listen, you can still understand. I can, I know you can, because we've listened to that. But if somebody is listening to it and they haven't listened to it and they can still break through that fuzz and understand the words you're saying, that's what you wrote the song for.
Oh yeah,
the melody carries that in and soothes them and kind of carries them throughout it.
Well, that's where like you and I were
what sympathize and empathizes the audience with you.
Yeah, well that's where like you and I were talking earlier how it's a little bit different in styles because I'm not a lyricist. I don't consider myself a lyricist. Like that's not my first thing. Well, it takes more work for me. My natural thing for me is to just write music first. That comes easy. It's when I sit down and start trying to do vocals and stuff and write lyrics, that takes me a lot longer because it doesn't just come naturally. I'll have an idea sometimes, or when I'm writing the music, sometimes I'll have a line or something that comes to mind while I'm doing it. But like with you, it's so natural for you to just it like just comes out. I mean, the 2-chord song. Like, I didn't
Yeah,
believe you
the
when you said
2-chord song.
Yeah, when I didn't believe you when you said it was like freestyled, but holy fuck, it was freestyled. Like I'm like, there's no way this is freestyled.
Yeah, the second time I played it was right here with you. Literally,
It was like,
Well, and
it was hard for me to get just to come into the song. Literally, it probably took me a minute just to be like, okay, I forgot.
And the fact that you remember it,
in,
like that's the thing for me that blows my mind. Is like
the best thing for me is I didn't have to look at any of my anything wrote down on my phone. And there's songs that I have wrote down, but there's so many. This is my problem. If I go into my notes right now, there's so many vocals in there right now. You could you could span for months. Then I have to go back. Some of those songs, are a little older because I don't always get time to write nowadays and everything and sit down. And they're so old that, man, I'll be sitting there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes just to get to those lyrics. And like, I just have to know them. Like, I better just run through it.
You ever have the thing where like you'll go into your stuff a year later or more and you'll start going through things and you'll be like, I don't remember any of this. Where did this come from? And then you'll be like, or you might remember one part of it. Or like for me, because like I said, I tend to record music first and then lyrics later. I'll sit down at my laptop or whatever and demo out some things at home when I've got this idea. And then I'll just leave it there. And then I'll move on, go about my day or whatever. And then I'll forget about it sometimes. And months will go by, a year will go by. And I'm just like looking and I was like, man, I got a lot of shit I got to clean out of this computer. It's just too much. And so I'm going through these old songs and I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Where did this come from? Like none of it. Like there's a few songs I've come across lately going through old stuff. I'm like, I don't remember writing this. Like
I guess I don't really have that because right now I don't have as much recording like to go into software and record my own stuff at home as what I probably used to back in the day, and where I would have a bunch of songs like that built up and I'd be, like, okay, I maybe remember that hook to this or the chorus to something, but I'm always messing with so many different genres and everything. So like, that's why I started taking the videos of everything. Like, even if it's like a 30-second or a 40-second video, if I can take it, I have a video of exactly what I played. There's no question of where the note was on the guitar. I'll play it exactly the same. And I've always been kind of a visual learner anyway. That's how I learned how to play guitar.
Yeah, same here.
I
learned all by
$50 Fender acoustic. I sat in my room freshman year and taught myself to... I really didn't teach myself. I kind of, my brother learned a lot of songs and I watched other people learn a lot of songs. And then I would kind of, okay, I can watch you play that and I can play it. But for the most part, I was just interested in playing I don't even care if the note looks like a real note because I didn't know what they are. I still barely know what they are. Like, I'm still learning every day.
I'm the same way.
But if it sounds good, dude, on a guitar and beautiful, don't mess with it.
I think I've actually learned more of the music theory side since, like, becoming friends with him and the several other people I've become friends with over the years that are like more technically trained musicians.
That's the hardest side
and
of it.
They're like, oh, so you mean this? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I do it. And they're like, yeah, that's what that's called. And I'm like, oh, well, I never knew that, but thanks. Now I know.
Even better. It just comes naturally.
Yeah,
even
I
better.
just played this and, they're like, oh, well, that's such and such chord. And I'm like, I don't know.
You just knew that it sounded
exactly.
Good.
I fucked around with it.
If it matches by ear, it definitely matches in real life.
Exactly.
Anything. Music theory, anything.
But that's like, I think coming from, drummer background and stuff, it's nice to be able to, because you always feel limited on the drums because you are only making rhythms. You can't make the melody to it as well.
That's the whole reason I started learning how to play guitar.
Yeah. That's the reason why I switched off of drums to bass in the first place. And then, I play a little bit of guitar, but mostly stick to bass just because I like the feel and the groove of the bass.
I feel like
it's a mix of both. Like you get the rhythm and
I love the low end.
Get the rhythm and you get the melody with it. So
I always felt like you just have this groove. Like I can always feel the Finney groove.
Then I get
in more ways than.
Well, when you're a drummer, you're just sitting there, like you said, doing the drum beat, and you get to have fun with it and make it what you want. But usually, you're always kind of influenced. There's always can you do this or can you do that? And it's always cool when you get total freedom. But it's kind of like that old joke, the drummer wrote a song. Oh yeah, well he's fired. He's not the drummer anymore.
The only one that works for is John Bonham.
like, drummer's not allowed to write songs ever.
Well, and even even some of the ones that Ringo did, he didn't completely write.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing too. Is I was sitting there tracking bass to just your videos that you had, and
which we may release or something at some point.
Yeah,
the kind of demo versions.
It was just kind of getting ready for the live set here, and there were some bass parts I was like wanting to, especially like the 2-chord song you had. Is like I came up with a couple bass parts that would accompany it, like, but I was like, wait, this is a 2-chord song. I just want to keep it simple and keep it 2 chords. Like,
that was a funny
one
thing.
of those things. Like I had to I have no problem with just accompanying a sound. Like, yeah, I can sit there and do flashy stuff on the bass if I want to, but
what's funny is I did the same thing the other night when I was, or the other morning. I did that when I was out here when you were first starting to kind of mess with the songs. You went off and were doing your thing, and I picked up the bass and I was playing it to that song.
Nice.
And what was funny is that like the chorusy part of it, I came up with a more like runny bass line, and then like I was like, nah.
Sometimes
I'm like, I'm not gonna do this because I'm gonna let Tyler do it, but like
sometimes you just gotta keep it simple. I mean,
yeah,
that's like, I mean, going back to Ringo Starr, I mean, his drum parts aren't that intricate.
No, but he was always solid.
It's the song, and it's solid, and it makes the song what it is, and that's what I feel makes a good musician. I don't care like if you can sit there and do runs up and down the neck and stuff like that, but if you know how to play with a group of people.
Well, it's like we were talking earlier, like about how some of the best songs, the most like memorable songs are 3 chords, 4 chords at most. Like you're
some
not
of the most famous songs that are triple platinum records are 4 chords. Come on. Are you serious? Like, really? I mean, what's that one? Bret Michaels, he's got that song. It's 2 chords. Where Rose has his thorn or whatever. That's 2 chords. Everybody knows that song. I mean, that is a song that's so... That's a song that's so monumental that like kids learn it as some of their first songs playing guitar. It's like, well, yeah, because it's like literally 2 or 3 chords. It's like, but yeah, but it's still a good song. And those are the songs that we all grew up on and our parents grew up on. So if we got songs that are making it from 1965 and they're still on the radio every 30 minutes in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
Even the bands nowadays that, or groups nowadays that are like, oh, yeah, we made it. Will you have that made it? Like in, that many years from now and 40, 60 years from now?
Dude,
nobody
so
will
much
know
right now. It's so disposable.
Well, yeah, but it's a washed up market. There's so many.
I mean, that's the thing is like the very technology, like what we're using here, that's made it so easy for us to like get our stuff out there has also made it easy for everyone, including those that, might not.
It's no longer having to have, all this money saved up to go into the studio and have your stuff together. So you're spending the least amount of money to get your stuff out. And it's, 1 or 2 takes, get your stuff out, all the band together, playing through it. Yeah. Now it's just, you can, like we do even, you can write a guitar part, send it to me. I can sit here and put a bass line to it. And it's like, you don't get that.
Well, and I feel like there's, if you use it as a tool, it's good, but don't over rely on it. And I'm speaking as someone who's guilty of doing that. I fell into that trap myself at certain points in my musical journey of being like, oh yeah, because I was always about looking at the new thing, especially in music technology. I was always looking at like the new software, the new things, and it all started out of necessity for me because I didn't have other people to work with at the time when I was a kid, just starting out playing, but I had all these ideas. So I started learning about all this equipment and all this stuff. And it just kept going over the years. And so I was always involved in it. But then eventually, 15 years down the road, the next thing I know, I'm like become one of those people that's so super reliant on all the technology. I'm doing everything.
Things in
I'm quantizing everything. Yeah. I'm not even doing
the whole song all the way through.
I'm not playing live drums. I'm programming everything out. Exactly. And although I had this thing that I've always stuck to, which I still kind of do now, which is I try to do now I think we pretty much try to do things in straight takes all the way through.
Yes.
even when we're doing the more modern digital age kind of recording, I still have this thing that's like, play it all the way through because you want that feel. If you're just punching in, punching out all the time, it's so noticeable.
Oh, I know.
It's like,
I mean, there's even in our last album that we put out, there's spots where I made minor errors, like I'm, just half a millisecond late on getting to a note, but that's what gives it that feeling, that real feeling. Like I could have went back and re-recorded it, but it's like close enough.
Well, and I feel like that's one of the things that's missing is that kind of old school, what was kind of really, it was the way to record back all the way up into like the mid 80s. Mid
90s even.
Mid 80s was when they started doing more of the digital production. Like mid to late 80s was when digital production started happening more. But up until that point, it was get the whole band in a studio together and play the songs. And you would play them straight through as a band. You might overdub vocals or something, but you would play through the music part of it would be played as a band. And then I feel like we've lost the feel of music because of that. Now everything is so perfect that it doesn't seem real anymore.
Yeah.
Like, because we as humans were flawed. And that's one of I feel like is, one of the beauties of being a human, as well as the downside, is that we are flawed. But that musically allows for these little happy accidents.
Yes.
These little things that would have not happened had you been perfect. Had you been a machine and played this part perfectly, it doesn't sound the same. Like, from a technical side, you might have, especially like some of these like proggy metal bands and prog rock bands and stuff that'll go in and, that's one thing. Like, if you're going for that specifically, that's cool. And I don't mind listening to that every now and then just to be like amazed at like the technical prowess of somebody.
Well, yeah.
But I don't listen to that stuff all the time because to me, it's like, this isn't real. Like, it's...
If my thing is too, and I've always strived to do this with anything I've recorded, and I've been asked to dub vocals and we'll sing at a different pitch or try this and we'll try to fill some things in. And I'm kind of like, see, the problem with that is like, I sing it live and I want it to sound exactly what I sing like live because that's the only way I've heard it. Like you can record me and put as many isotopes and run as many, vocal mixers over there and compressions and all that stuff. But I really just like to hear it raw because like, if it's going to crack, it's going to crack. If I'm going to, prepubescent squeal or something like that, like if it sounds good, let's keep it. Like a lot of my favorite tracks that I've ever recorded, I did, and most of them for the previous bands that I've been in were all the way through, the vocals all the way through. And the only reason is because like, that's what it sounds like when I play it. And yeah, I might get, quieter in one spot. But yeah, if that's too quiet and we can't bump it up, then yeah, let's go back and I'll just redo it all the way through. I'll go hoarse if we have to, even off one track. Like, let's do it 8 times. Let's do it 20 times.
Well, that's one of the things that why, we wanted to do things the way we do it here. Like doing this, having live sessions, because I want to bring in, and we've talked about this, like we want to bring in these bands and have them play live. So you get a real feel for the band. I mean, what we're doing with the bands that come on here and the artists that come on here, we're not doing a ton of post-production stuff. We have
really just level setting.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, we have some presets and things that we've set just to get, the instruments sounding decent. So they're not too, over the top or whatever, but we don't, there's no quantizing. There's none of that. Like it's what it was recorded.
Like you
have to
at least be decently able to stumble through your song at a decent off, but still kind of on time.
Exactly.
Melody.
And I feel
tempo.
like, because I mean, obviously, like we talked earlier, part of why we wanted to do this was because the scene in this area has
there's
all but died out, especially for up and coming bands, small artists. Like there's nowhere to play anymore. There's nowhere to do any of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
All these places have closed down. And so it's like, well, with the technology we have now, let's use this tool that we have to showcase some of some of our friends and some of these people in this area that we like feel need, to get out there because they're good. That was, I mean, that's why you were one of the first people I thought of when we were thinking of bands to bring on early on. It's like, got to bring on Chris. Because I was like,
I'm always honored to be
listening
part
to
of
your
anything.
listening to your solo stuff, like you said, because you post some of the stuff to Facebook
that's all I have nowadays. I haven't done anything.
So because we've been friends for a while, and like I've when you post stuff like that, and I listen to it, and every time I'm just like, damn. Like, and then when we started doing this, I was like, I've got to get Chris on here. Like, like this is like a perfect thing for you because
it'd be great. It's awesome. I mean, and like you said, you're talking about everybody's always saying, well, they play shows over here, and then there's shows over here, Digby's, and shows over here, and I'm like, yeah, but it's always the same bands. It's always the same bands. Like, the scene has definitely not been anything close to what it was because I haven't been asked to play a show or even be a part of one in the last 3 years. And 3 years ago, I was playing every other weekend, if not every weekend, even out of state. And like when you play that grunge, stuff like that, like and the punk, like. You're not always asked to play places, so when you get asked to play, you're
coming from playing in metal bands and hardcore bands.
Yeah, exactly. But like, even the metal though, even that's what made us fit in too a little bit. Back in the day was we would play with a lot of metal bands because they're so open to a lot of sound at their shows. They're totally cool with it. But the problem is when you go out there in front of like a bar audience and you play some, badass Kurt Cobain fucking live unplugged kind of set and you get fucking emotional and it gets a little hardcore and you yell a couple times, say the F word and curse God or whatever, but like it's just the songs, it's just an emotion that you felt at a time. And some people would be like, oh, that's too much. Like, really? That's not too much. You should hear what's out there. Like, that's what you needed. That's what we should be.
I think a lot of it though is because of this area that we live in. And I said it on the last podcast, and I would probably say it on every fucking podcast that we do, is that I've always felt that this area is a black hole for musicians.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are so many good musicians here. I've worked with a lot of them in different bands or just like jamming with them or whatever.
Most of them aren't doing anything anymore. Because
you can't, like, being here, staying here, and trying to make it, you can't do it. Like, you have to leave. I mean, in fact, people talk about how it's like, well, you had, Axl Rose and,
Izzy Stradlin,
whatever, if you want to,
you might as well go to they Ohio. All left. Like they didn't fucking stay here. They all left.
Well, like all the hardcore friends, they all go to Ohio. Yeah. The scene's still going on.
Oh, dude, the scene over there is great.
And they're all playing shows in Kentucky, Ohio, and then they're on tours. They're up in Michigan. It's like, see, they've obviously got it going on down there to where they're backing their bands enough to spread them out and do a tour. Even it might be a small one, but still.
Well, there are some bands here I feel like that can do it and are starting to, but you really got to grind here. That's the thing is like I was talking to you about like the Greenleaves. Like those guys are fucking sick. Like they are super solid, a crazy great like metal band. And they're starting to get there, but they're grinding. Like they are, and they're doing it themselves. Like, they're putting stuff together. They're, and I mean, obviously for people like our age and stuff, we've had families, we've had kids and stuff. It's not as easy for us to go out and do big tours. And luckily enough, these guys are, young enough that they can afford to do that,
Yeah.
But like, I mean, even when we were doing stuff, in the mid to late 2000s and early teens, like it's still, even then it was a grind, but I feel like now it's even more like my hat's off to a lot of these bands now because
what we used to have at least 3 or 4 venues downtown that any metal band could play at,
or any band period. It didn't matter
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any night of the week. I mean, you could walk down to the Skylight Cafe and Muse would play, and then
you know what?
Right,
we need to invent a drinking game for every time somebody mentions the Skylight on this podcast because it comes up every time we talk about it.
It's kind of a staple. It really is.
That and Downtown Records.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We were just talking about them earlier.
They're real. The venue.
Staples,
it became a venue later, but it was Downtown Records when we were there a lot back in the day.
Like, I mean, the first band I ever been in, we were all cover punk band. I didn't even have a driver's license, and we still got somebody to haul my drum set and play there with Burning Within, and we were all cover Blink-182 kind of punk band. Like,
And I have to say it again, and move that damn piano.
Skylights, fuck
yes.
that piano. We're gonna have to look into making a shirt that just says "fuck that piano."
see, like, you could go to like anywhere, Cincinnati, Ohio, downtown during Monday, Tuesday night. We played down there on a Wednesday night. Northside Yacht Club. Here's an example.
Q.
Love the North. I love Q.
you, Q.
Always love Q.
Q is our boy, man. I love that man so much.
But Northside Yacht Club too, that he had us play at, I was like, this is cool. I'd never been in a place like this. And coolest thing was like, if you were sitting at the front bar area, you couldn't hear any bands playing. It was just like these two dainty little like funeral glass doors that you would open, right? And they'd shut them, and you'd open them, and you'd walk through, go down a hallway, and you'd finally get to the stage, and you could hear it. But it was like you couldn't hear it up by the bar, really. Like even them jamming, like you really couldn't hear it. But then you go back there, and it's like, oh, well, so-and-so's playing, and so-and-so's playing. It's like, well, 3 out of those bands, or 4 out of 5 of those bands are all signed, and they're going to play here tonight. I'm like, what? And then,
dude.
like, the flyers for the
That's
night
Q,
after.
though. That's all Q, man.
You got 4 Years Strong, and, oh, man, who else? Like Pacific, all these, happy hardcore, just great bands. I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to stay the night just to see them, Like, this is a killer venue.
We played in Q's Dungeon. Like,
oh yeah, yes.
And
I love Q's Dungeon. The basement.
They're getting ready to do. I guess
awesome.
he's not going to be doing shows anymore out there. Although by the time that this airs, it's probably already going to be past. I think because I think his last one's coming up soon. But he's not going to be doing shows there anymore. But I love shit like that. Like basement shows, living room shows. Those were some of the most fun. Like because
That's
you
where
get
you
rowdy
get
as
it,
fuck
yeah.
and like nobody cares. Like I mean, as long as you're not completely destroying somebody's house.
Well,
like
yeah. Unless they want you to.
yeah.
We've played Kick the Door on cars before.
Oh, dude.
It's a hardcore fest. I still have the videos on my phone. Not Your Father's Hardcore. That was so much fun. I can't wait. I hope it gets
He's supposed to be bringing it back.
I know, I hope it.
This next year. I think he was
If it
basically
does,
taking 1 year off.
Definitely want to play. I definitely want to play.
Dude, Robert, that's another man that's, another one of my boys. I love Robert to death. Like that whole idea. I was glad to see somebody kind of have the balls to step up and try to do something like that again. Like to give something for bands around here to go and do.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like I said, it died out so much that, like, I mean, I took about a 4-year hiatus completely from music. And it seemed like in that time frame was kind of when everything fell apart. Like and I think we brought this up last time that that was like around the time that the shooting started happening. That we had there was the one that happened at Nick's, and then there was the situation that happened over at Reilly's, which were the two kind of like mid to small size venues that were in town that like a lot of places. And Nick's had been around for fucking ever.
Oh yeah.
That was the one that shocked me when that happened, because I had actually just been in there not too long before that for a show. And then it seemed like right after that happened, like there was this massive crackdown on local venues. And especially anything that had to do with hip hop or metal or hardcore or punk, anything that was like anything edgy, they just put the kibosh on it. They were like,
songs.
We're not doing this. And it sucked because, the shows that we would put on with these, like, of course it was like a lot of screamo bands, punk bands, metal bands, hardcore bands. Like, we never had issues ever. Like, yeah, you might occasionally have some kids that get a little too rowdy in the pit or something, but even at that, we never really had anything major happen.
Yeah, usually it's pretty clean.
So it was like, why are you punishing us? Like, nothing ever happens.
Stereotypes and stigmas, man. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
So it's like, I don't know.
Well, something happened, and it's because it happened once, it's going to happen at any time at all.
Well, and that's honestly what's killing a lot of these smaller venues. I've talked to some people that have run smaller venues, and mid-sized venues and stuff that have said that insurance is the number one killer for venues right now. Because, well, that's right. Remember when we were younger, of course, and you and I think we're pretty close in age, but like,
yeah, I've just turned 31.
So yeah, and I'm 34. So it's geez. We're close.
We're still close.
But like,
we're still 30 years young.
Yes, exactly. But like, but we both were going to shows around the same time a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And like, so like, you remember when mosh pitting, crowd surfing, stage diving, all that stuff was acceptable and nobody gave a shit. Like it was fun. And people understood that there were just these kind of unspoken rules about that kind of stuff. Where it was like, in the pit, if somebody gets knocked down, you pick them up. It's not a big deal.
Well, yeah, there's these.
You've got the crowd surfing guys. It's like, all right, the crowd surfing, just kind of keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick. Don't grope the 14-year-old girls.
And don't punch women in the face and stuff. And don't go punching people in the face from the back and this at the jawline. Yeah. Like coming up from behind them and punch them in the side of the face. Like, you gotta be face to face if you're gonna. Or
you got those guys that think they're fucking like karate experts out there spin kicking and shit and like intentionally trying to spin kick people in the back of the heads and shit. And it's like, that's not what this is for. Or stage diving. Stage diving was one of those things that used to be a staple at like hardcore shows and metal shows and stuff. You don't find it anywhere anymore because venues do not allow it because too many people have gotten hurt. And it's like all it takes these days, it seems like, is like one person getting hurt at a show. And usually the person that gets seriously hurt in something like that was doing something fucking stupid. Not always, but sometimes, a lot of times, it's like some kid thought that he would be smart and like get himself up on stage with some hardcore band and then gets thrown off by security and smacks their head, Although in instances like that, it's like they end up smacking their head on the barricade. But the barricades didn't used to exist when we were...
Yeah, that's true.
When we were going to shows. They put the barricades in for security, and now you got kids getting thrown off and hitting the barricades and hurting themselves. And it's like, oh, well, now this is why we're not going to allow stage diving. Because
you put the aluminum gate there.
You put it there. And
that I got a concussion
we put it there to try to keep people from rushing the stage and stuff. And it's like, but...
You put it there and people tried to rush the stage and they still got trampled underneath it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean... It is kind of nice to have, in those situations where you go to a show that's like really super packed.
It's
good
to have the security always, but I don't know about as formidable as like this small aluminum gate that couldn't hold back a puppy dog. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like really, like that thing's aluminum. Like you could a little kid could go up and push it over. So like
the last time I went to a show,
if the people behind it aren't holding it,
that's what I was going to say. The last time I went to a show at the Emerson, rest in peace, now that it's closed, but. The last time I went to a show at the Emerson.
I didn't even know that. See, that's how long I haven't been anywhere.
I think we talked about this on the last podcast. They closed down and the people that were running it moved to the Citadel, which is over kind of like on the northwest side of town. But same people that were involved with the Emerson moved over there.
That was a sketchy area down there.
Oh, the Emerson and 10th, dude.
Oh man, I would get
that was the charm of the place, though. The best was when they used to have the tattoo parlor right next door, and then the bars across the street. Then you had the other bar around the corner.
I love the bar around the corner.
Yeah,
that's where I would go.
Hell yeah,
because the line was always so long. But
us and the guys from We Came as Romans got so drunk over there one night.
I got out of the car one night to go into the. Senseless Fail 10-year reunion tour of their album or whatever.
I wanted to go. I couldn't make it work.
It was so good. And I got out of the car and I opened the door and I was like, what the heck? And I was like, oh, that's a 40 caliber. I got that at home. I got the same gun at home, I'm thinking, man. And then I found another one. I was like, wow, we're right in front of a house. Like somebody obviously
Did I tell the Emerson story on the last podcast?
I don't think so.
You were there for that one, I think, weren't you? The car battery, the car battery one with this fucking nutsack, like. It was his nuts. Like it was his nuts.
I was thinking it was his nipples, but it was his nuts.
And I'll tell it on this one, and hopefully I won't tell it again in another podcast. But we were playing. Was that the night we played with Trenches? Maybe.
Yes, I think so.
So we were playing with Trenches. Jimmy Ryan used to be in Haste Today, his band Trenches. We were playing with them down there, and there was this drunk hobo out front, right? Just bumming money off of people. And of course, what do a lot of like these metal and hardcore bands in, what was this, 2007?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do with this hobo? They're like, well, yeah, we'll give you money, but let's make a deal. You got to do something for this. You got to earn this. So what do? Like somebody, I don't know who, because I wasn't out there when it happened. I came out after the deal had already been made, but somebody had made a deal with this dude that he had to zap his nuts with a car battery, right? So there's a fucking truck.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not like just a little four banger, a little, Mazda or anything. No, this is a big ass, like 3/4 ton Dodge sitting out front. And he's like, they hook up the battery cables to it. And they're like, everybody. So there's this crowd gathering. And that's when I came out, was like, what's going on? There's like this crowd gathering around it. It's right out front, right in front, like literally right out the front doors.
I would have died.
There's this crowd and we're thinking, what's going on? And I'm like, he's not going to do what I think he's going to do. Like, oh, he's not gonna do. And then all of a sudden, like, he's like, and the guy's like, no. He's like, we're going to, he said he would up the money was what it was. Because I think it was like $50 or something. They're like, we'll double it. We'll make it $100 if we have the car running. So he starts the thing up. And the guy, like, right as he's about to do it, the guy in the truck goes, whoa! Like, I saw sparks.
Yeah.
Sparks fly.
Oh, yeah.
Dude drops on the ground. Ah!
I can't believe he was alive.
Like,
wow.
The things that you would only see at the Emerson, like...
That's rough. Then he probably walked over to McDonald's.
Oh, dude, no, you know he went right across the street to the fucking bar is what he did.
Well, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because McDonald's is right on that corner.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It's right there.
Oh, that was always perfect because you get wasted at the bar. You play the show, you get yourself all like, ugh, and then you'd be like, I gotta get something in my stomach. You walk catty corner over to McDonald's, you get a couple of, McChickens or something in you, and you're like, oh, I'm good to go again. Hit back to the bar.
Like Dollar McChickens, man.
Who was, I mean, because we don't have to name them necessarily on the podcast, but somebody that we knew got a tattoo at that parlor right next door one of the nights that we played there, and it was a fucking dolphin. It was a stupid dolphin tattoo.
I can't remember.
I like dolphins.
I mean, I can bleep this out in post, but was it Cam? Was it Cam or? I don't think it wasn't Todd.
No.
I'm going to have to bleep both of these, but
I can't remember who it was.
But somebody that we knew at one of the shows that we'd played down there was
it Squire?
No.
Squire.
But I'll leave his name in. Everybody knows.
Squire.
But like somebody we knew just went over, how they got like the cheapy $10 tattoos or whatever on the wall.
Flash rack.
Yeah. So it's just like it was a fucking dolphin and he got it like on his hand.
That's so cool.
We're like,
I think that's cool.
Why?
Call me crazy. I think it's cool when you get like a dumb tattoo.
But for me though, like what's cool about that and probably cool for him now is the fact that because like the Emerson doesn't exist now as a venue, now it's a memory that's attached to a really cool place that doesn't even exist anymore.
I mean, when we were going at it hard, I mean, that was the place to.
Oh, dude, the Emerson was
played there so often, place. But like.
But the thing that was great about the Emerson, which is something that like this community here in the Lafayette area is lacking, is the Emerson was open to everyone. They were open to all types of music. They were open to tiny no-name people all the way up to maybe. You had big artists people that became big later.
Like The Used and
maybe
My
Chemical
Romance,
or something.
Yeah,
like that,
yeah. I mean, there were artists that became huge later that came through and played at the Emerson. I always tried to look for like The Used and My Chemical Romance, their signatures and shit back in there, like when we would sign
in the bathroom
or on the walls in the hallways there, the loading dock area.
Right. Yeah.
I think we had at least. I think I had at least 2 or 3 bands that I was in had signatures somewhere in those walls.
I mean, you had like Taste the Day playing there all the time. You had,
and it had to be something. It definitely was another staple because like every show I've ever went there always sounded like crap. Sounded always.
Oh, dude! I mean, did you never played on the stage? Did you?
No.
That place was notorious for the worst monitors in the fucking world.
I'm just saying from the audience, like every time I saw a band, I'm like, okay, I know I can tell that they're sounding good, but like, who is running the sound?
It really depended. It really depended on who you were going to see and who was running sound. Because if you had a band that came through that had their own touring sound guy with them, it was totally different. Because I remember I saw Norma Jean there in 2005. This is in 2005. This was right after Corey came in and took over vocalist. for the band after Josh left. So this would have been like, Oh God, the Aftermath era. Like, and they sounded amazing in there. And I think they had their own sound guy with them, and that's why. But yeah, a lot of like, especially local shows that were there, like they were just, unless you had somebody like within the friend group that was there, bands that could be like, let's have this guy run sound because he knows what he's doing. If it was just the house guy, which usually was the guy who was running the venue, who really wasn't necessarily that great.
Though, when I was in California Caller and we were playing there, the sound guy, they had switched sound guys, and he was actually pretty good at it. But
it's probably Chris.
Yes, it was Chris.
Yeah, Chris
he was good.
Chris is a good dude, and he also runs sound for the Dome.
Okay,
and is also sometimes, I don't know if he's doing stuff at the Citadel that much. I know that Steven has been doing sound, I think, for the Citadel, but yeah, Chris is the shit. Like he was a great sound guy. But he was funny because the last couple of shows that I went to or played at the Emerson and stuff. In fact, the last show I went to the Emerson was another Norman Jean show when they came
with 68
last year. And Chris was running the sound then, and it sounded great.
Yeah.
But like he would always joke about how he's just like, this is Stone Age piece of shit equipment. It's like, you do the best that you can, but it's like you can only polish a turd so much. Yeah. Like it's, you do the best you can with, and although they did switch out to some better mains in the later years, the last few years that they were running, they had some better mains. But the monitors always sucked.
Did they end up putting gates up there though?
They put a barricade up. In fact, there's some videos that I took of them playing that night where they like which is so weird because that stage is already like a 3.5, 4 foot high stage. So it's like,
I remember they used to have barricades at the side entrances.
Well, yeah, to keep people from going where the bands would load in and out. But
I never had an issue with people.
No,
even when we played with trenches.
Well, but see, back in the day, because I'm going to bring Norma Jean up again, but that's one of the bands I've seen the most live. It was a big influence on me as a teenager and whatever. But every time they would come through the area, I would go and see them.
Good though.
I would go and see them as often as I could. And before things started cracking down, so this would have been in mid 2000s, probably 2006, because I saw them in 2005, 2006, 2008, but in 06 was when we were living together by that point, and you didn't go to that one with us, but that night they were playing with the Chariot, which is Josh, who was vocalist for Norman Jean, now vocalist for 68, but it was his other band that he started after he left Norman Jean, and they were playing together, and they well overpacked that venue that night. I mean, it was packed.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that was before regulations were different. So there were people climbing up on stage. Josh at one point climbs up on the speaker, the mains, and is up there doing his thing, and then jumps as far out as he can out into the audience, and everybody catches, because the place is completely packed. It's not like he's going to hit the floor. Like, it didn't matter what direction he went. They had packed that thing wall to wall. So he's up there doing his, and then he jumps just out. And everybody catches him. And and it was just amazing. And then you'd have crowd surfers and people jumping off the stage. And it was amazing. And you never really had anybody get too hurt. I mean, upon occasion, you'd have some people get some black eyes or, bloody lip or something, or bloody nose if you got elbowed or something.
You're at a place where people are getting hardcore, but that happens. That's
the thing too, is like, what's the main rule about that? Like, if you don't want to get hurt, stay off to the side, stay in the back. Don't sit right dead center in the front.
You know where the line is. They usually let you know. They go like this and tap you. Hey,
even usually the front, I'd say like what would be like 2 or 3 rows are usually pretty safe too. You might, that last one, you might get hit in the back, but the front 2 or 3 rows of people are usually pretty safe. It's just past that in the middle is where you got to watch out when shit gets rowdy. But it was always fun. Like, and I can't think of any time that I went to a show there that had pits and stuff where I ever saw somebody get knocked down and had the crap kicked out of them. It was always like, as soon as somebody dropped, there was like 3 people grabbing them and throwing them right back up. Yeah. Like, and they would stop whole pits. Like, I mean, the band would still be playing and things are getting rowdy, and also it's like, whoa, and then like everybody would just stop and pick somebody up, check them out, make sure they're good, go right back to it. Yeah,
it was all fun. Yeah. I mean, it was no, everyone looked out for each other, and it was no, well, fuck this guy, he's on the ground, like, pussy, get up.
I mean, like
Everyone
we
helped
were saying
everyone out.
earlier, every now and then you would get some bad actors. You get a few dickheads that come in and think that they're going to use this as a way to, let out their pent up frustration against their, parents or whatever. And they're going to start beating the shit out of random people.
But everyone usually kicked their ass. And kicked them out.
Yeah. The best was, I think it was at that one I went to in 2006. There was this huge dude. There was a kid fucking around doing that shit. And he literally just came up and bear hugged this kid, picked him up, and turned around and walked out and threw him out on the curb. And they wouldn't let him back in either. They're like, nope, this kid's out. He's out. And he wasn't even a security guy. He was just this big dude that happened to be there at the show.
Oh, yeah. We watched another one at the Skylight. We went to the Skylight for the Analyst. I
forgot they played there.
They only got 5 songs in, and they stopped because their merch guy was punching people in the face. That, coming from behind, just punching people, and he was hitting girls and guys. One of my buddies, older brothers, basically did the same thing, grabbed him and ran him up to the front and tackled him. Well, he's WCJC football player and wrestler from back in the day, so he grabbed him like a rag doll, and right when they did, they were like, hey, let our dude go. Shh, we're done. We're out of here. They cut the show and left halfway through.
Really?
They were like, we're not playing anymore. Let our dude out. And it was like, all he did was tackle your guy. Like
your dude was being a douche.
Exactly. Out of anything, you should have a talk with your merch guy.
Yeah.
Really, you should have a talk with him, because he's going around you're not looking good at these venues when your merch guy or whoever's with your band or even says that they know you is going around punching people out of the back, out of the blue, almost if you were running up from behind Tyler and just caught the backside of his jaw. That little line, you know how that hurts. That goes right up to the brain and all the way to every molar you got. But yeah, that was kind of funny to see. It was well, I guess you could do that. If it was me, I'd fire the guy right there and finish the show.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love about doing this podcast. You never stand up for
people that do things wrong.
That's what I love about doing this podcast, because you as well, we all come from this era of helping all the bands and everyone in the area. It's not, well, they get more likes than us on Facebook. Fuck them. We hate them. Mm-hmm. It's, you know what, we think you're good. We like you. We want the best for you. So, everyone help each other out and make it a big family like it used to be. I feel like it used to be a big family, and now it's kind of separated, and now it's starting to come back to a big family thing.
Played shows. We drove down to Cincinnati, went to play a show, and guess what? I don't have either one of my guitars. They were left because the night before we played a late show at the Knickerbocker, and guess what? Nobody grabbed my guitars. I helped grab everything, and my guitars obviously got left, and we drove all the way to Ohio, and I don't have my guitars because we packed the van that night, left in the morning. I get down there, I'm like, I unload everything. Half stack, pedals, everything. I have no guitar. So I have to borrow the guy that we asked to play the show with us his guitar. I have to go ask him that, and I'm so uncomfortable anyway, just being like, hey man, so I'm a dumbass, and I forgot my shit.
There's always seems though. I think every show we've ever played, there's always something we forgot to bring.
Well, right off the bat, I'm like, all right, dude. So I hate to ask you this. Is there any way I can borrow your guitar? I'll pay you after the show. I'll give you some money just for using it. Not gonna hurt it or anything. I promise. You'll be right there watching me, obviously. But I really need this. I'm in a situation. Oh, no problem, dude. You're good, bro. Keep your money. Buy me a beer. You're good. That's the attitude that we need to have.
Well, didn't that happen back the day that you broke your bass playing at the Skylight? Yeah.
Or hey, I don't have a drum set. Can I use your drum set?
Dude, I've always been like that with people. It's
that's how it should be.
Well, in fact, even with this podcast, that's one of the things that we tell bands when they come here is if you don't want to have to lug your drum set all the way here, we have a couple of kits that we can get access to easily.
Yeah.
That we can set up here for you, so you don't have to.
Hey,
bring your pedals or cymbals or whatever that you.
We have a PA that we own that we practice with. Do you guys have one? No. Okay, we'll bring ours. Yeah. Every band will use it.
Yeah.
For vocals.
Yeah, but that's because we come from that generation of local bands.
You got to get it done at the end of the day.
We all helped each other out.
You have to even if you're oh, well, I'm not really a fan of this band or that person. At the end of the day, you still have to make all strides to get their group through their set and sound as good as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's really the goal. Like, you might even, like, there might be a quarrel with you and somebody from the band. You might not like them. You still have to smile, act accordingly, and be cordial in public.
The thing is, for me,
and get the show done and get every band in there and out of there, and then you guys can argue.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about the music. I mean,
oh yeah, you guys can do your fighting behind doors, but anything like that, like, just always be up front and be.
It's just like
in front of people. You got to lead by example, especially because the crowd is always wanting to get rowdy. Mm-hmm. Then when you guys, say a band member, another band member starts a fight on stage. Well, what does that do for the crowd?
It's just going to incite them even more.
Exactly. Yeah. Incite. See, perfect word choice. Incite, because that's what it's going to do. They're just going to go, what?
When we were playing the Skylight one night, and I would flip my bass.
Another mention of the Skylight.
So what is that like? This is the drinking game episode. There's gonna be a drinking game for every time we mention the Skylight on this. I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, really, that's where it
my
was.
Bass and my strap broke, and I broke the neck on that guitar that I was playing tonight.
Actually, I think the neck is somewhere around here. I think it's up there on the wall.
And so it's like I'm mid playing, and I didn't even have to ask. Like Todd, he was in Burns Like Rome.
Yeah.
And at that time, and
actually, was he playing bass for
Piaf? No, I think
Bassless, right? Wasn't because it was Piaf. He played bass for Piaf for a little bit.
Yeah, but no, this was
he there
Burns Like
for
Rome.
But he wasn't. No. He was vocalist for them.
It must have been Piaf.
Yeah.
So he like runs up and grabs his bass and just like hooks it up and gets it ready to go for me like mid song.
Like as the rest of the band's still playing the song, because it was like right early in the song when that happened.
It was like their second song that night. We had like a 5-song set or something like that.
Yeah, because we played with you guys that night or that evening, whatever it was. Like
because it was California Caller days.
Yeah, it was when you were in California Caller and I was playing in a Cold Dark Night. It was like the early days for us. Of course, you guys had. I mean, because it kind of evolved into that.
We talked about that.
Yeah. But like you guys had still been playing for a little bit. ACDN, that was kind of like the earlier days for us. Mm-hmm. And I was back when I was still playing drums for the band.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that happen and that look on your face. It's just like, the fuck? But you're right though. But like Todd, just immediately, just right there before the song was even done, it was like still like 2/3 of the way through the song or something like that.
Yeah.
By the time you got it back up on there and you just kept going. And that's the kind of community that we all came up in around here with bands. And unfortunately there's become this gap, I feel like, I felt like there was one before our generation of musicians around here. And then now there's one again where it was like, oh, if you're a musician, you're on this other level. Like you're this, you're higher than the regular person, you're whatever. And, fuck them, let them deal with their own stuff, whatever. Yeah. Whereas like we were all like, dude, we're just like stoked that there's places to play. Like we get to actually play on a legit stage with a PA. That's fucking awesome. Like, so
like, I mean, I really feel like Bennett's bringing back a lot of the family connection to it thing, but like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
like just like you said, just playing a show. But then when you get to the point where people are like, you play through a set and they're like, here's $300, here's $400 for playing a set, and you're like,
the first time,
wait, did I just make that much money playing some like? And I mean, even though whatever, some mediocre whatever music, I could have put way more into it. You're always like, I could have done way more.
I'm gonna shout him out for this.
I'm still okay with the money.
I'm gonna actually shout him out for this because. Nick with the Doom Room, the first time we played with them, did a show with the Doom Room and with Nick and everything. Like it wasn't even that big of a crowd.
No,
it was a tiny group of people. I think it was like on a Thursday night or something, on Wednesday night. It wasn't even like a prime night necessarily, but it was not necessarily a big draw. And he paid us. I was not expecting anything whatsoever. And he paid us out for it. And I was like, dude, what's this for? And he's like, you guys, deserved it. And so I was shocked.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, dude, thanks, man. Like, I was not expecting that, especially. And it's sad to say because we are so used to playing venues that don't pay out at all. Like, it's just like, oh, this is just exposure for you. So it's good, And it's like, I'm not looking to get rich here, but like, we have all these expenses. Like, especially part of the reason why, as much as we love Q, part of the reason we haven't been back out to Cincinnati is because we can't afford that drive all the time to get all of our stuff together, to take the time off, to find people to take care of our kids, to do all that, to go all the way out there and do shows, without having, at least something to be able to cover,
expenses or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Q's the man. I mean, like, he'll do whatever. He'll give you the shirt off his back, but it's not him that I'm going to make sure I'm clarifying. It's not him that was the issue with that, but it's like, it just, doing long distance shows or things like that are a lot harder because you can't afford it. Like, you have to be able to, and that's why I tell like promoters, and there's some good promoters or some bad ones, but I've seen a lot of, especially in Indiana, I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but especially here, I've been seeing a lot more shit promoters lately who are booking these things and just shafting these artists like big time, like not paying out hardly anything or nothing. And then they have all the excuses of, oh, well, I got this and that. And it's like, we understand there's expenses. There's always going to be expenses for your utilities, for whatever. Don't make a set list of 13 fucking bands if you can't, especially if you've got bands coming from a state away or
Canada.
Yeah.
Well,
and,
see, the problem too is when the venue tries to say, well, we don't have a good crowd because you didn't bring people. It's like, well,
nobody here knows us.
I live 4 hours away.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but the truth of it is, everything's just getting more expensive. Mm-hmm. And things are getting smaller in portions, so people are being more manageable about their money, and everybody's being more like, well, let's be conservative. We can go out and do that, but only if it works with our budget and everything. And it's like, hey, my buddy's playing a show. All right, well, let's hop in a van and drive 4 hours and watch him for the same price we could watch him here in town, or just go to his house and listen to him play.
Well, and that's the thing that I feel like they've gotten away from is, back when we were playing a lot in the late 2000s and then early teens, like, the venues used to have a reputation about the venue of the bands they brought in.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
would hype up the venue, and you could go play an offset.
Oh, dude,
and have that place packed. Or at least plenty of people.
Downtown Records is a prime example of that, because Downtown Records was exactly that thing. Downtown Records had a reputation for itself.
And I feel like that's how the venue should be. Yeah. Like, okay, now I know that, you might have big name bands that bring in a big crowd, but when you're a regular band that's trying to play a show and get exposure, I'm the band, you're the bar that has people here every night a week. It's up to you for the next 4 weeks to advertise the shit out of this show and to pack out. Because at the end of the day, if I drive all the way down there and I play 3 songs, 5 songs, I don't care if I play 20 songs. I'm not out a lot of money. But if I play those songs and there's nobody in your bar all night, guess what you just lost? All liquor sales.
Yeah.
All at the door. Well, everything. You were and even if you serve food, guess what? There's not even an audience to buy food. And that's not just on me, that's on you, because at the end of the night, this is your business. You're stuck with it.
What does a venue expect though from you? What does a venue or a promoter expect from you if you're especially not from that area? And it's like, well, who am I going to promote it to out there? Nobody knows us.
Well, and also how are you going to gain that exposure or gain a fan base if you're having to bring your own fan base to these places? Like, if you're wanting to build, you're trying to introduce yourself to a new group of people, a new fan base.
This is why the one thing that I can't stand the most is the fucking pay to play shit. That fucking twists my short and curlies.
We turned down Thompson House. We were 30 minutes from there, and we called the guy, and he said, did you guys sell any tickets? I said, no. We live 3.5, 4 hours away. We didn't sell any tickets. We're on our way. We're 25 minutes away. Oh, if you guys don't have any tickets sold, I'm gonna need like $110 cash so you can play. And then this was his words. And then we can maybe get you $30 for gas at the end of the night. I was like, well, that's crazy because I work a regular, job, and at that time I was making great money. I was like, Kevin, just tell that dude right there, we're not gonna show up, and guess what? I'm paying for a hotel room, and we're partying on us tonight. Like we're gonna party and spend the $100+ on alcohol just because you thought you had the audacity to tell us that we were gonna give you money somehow up front, this $100 and something worth dollars of cash, just to have a say at your table and maybe throw in some coins at the end just to make it home, some scraps. Like
I understand some of the concepts behind why pay to play started in the first place.
Yeah, but you better
because like you have say you have like a major touring act, right? Or not a major, but if you have a mid-sized touring act, most of those have literally in their contracts guarantees. Yeah. They have to make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
So then the promoter looks at it as, okay, so I've got this band who's the bigger headliner, who's going to be the real draw for the crowd. But their guarantee is they have to make $1,000 for the night or whatever. And maybe I'm just nice even number. Yeah. So you got to figure out how to come up with that $1,000 to give them that guarantee.
Well, of course.
But then it's like, don't fucking make the deal if you can't do it. Like if you aren't already established,
the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Or exactly. If you're the promoter, that's your job. You're a promoter. Like you're supposed to be promoting this thing.
You're
like,
the hype man for the venue. Yeah. Like, I mean,
that's nowadays, I don't know what it is, but it's just like when you go to AT&T, and it's the same thing with the music industry. They want you to do everything, but they're clocked in and getting paid the whole time, but you have to work all the circles and go through all the red tape and the hard lines just to get your song out there. And it's like, well, that's weird because what were you? Because I don't even need you now.
Oh, yeah.
They shouldn't even pay you. I should just directly talk to whoever manages the bar.
Again, it kind of goes back to why we started this. Because it goes back to the, like, let's give people a platform that is an open, potentially to untold numbers. I mean, it could be
record labels now. Look at Attila. Their last album they just put out, they put out themselves.
Yeah.
Because they don't, I mean, yes, they had a label help them get big and stuff like that, but they don't need that label record anymore.
Well, and honestly, these days, I tell a lot of people, like, honestly, if you really are hungry for it and you're willing to put in the work, it's better to do it on your own anyway.
Do your own merch and do everything.
Because
you're going to make all the dollars in the end.
And this is something that's talked about a lot on other music podcasts and things, but the truth of the matter is that a record label is just a bank for bands. They loan you the money to make your album, your merch, all that stuff.
60+%.
But then what happens is you don't make a single fucking dime until you've made back whatever they've put into you. That's why there are some artists who are huge that, like, everybody knows, that are broke technically because they still owe millions upon millions of dollars to these record companies for what they invested in the album sales and in the music videos and the merchandising. And now you get these stupid 360 deals that record labels are doing, which is horseshit. And if any label ever offers anybody a 360 deal, give them the middle finger, because that means they own a portion of everything. Your merch, your tour, your music, anything you do, they own a right in. That's fuck that. That's giving way too much control to a company that really all their goal is to make money off of your work. That's all that it is. So it's like, put in the effort, do it yourself. Is it hard? Fuck yeah, it's hard. Like, I mean, there's a reason, like, even like with us, it's like, although with what we're doing nowadays, it's like we're doing this more for fun. It's not necessarily to try to make it big. But it's like, but even on that level, we've talked about it where it's like, we're doing it ourselves. Like, the only way I'm going to get involved with a label is if it's on our terms.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get suckered into some kind of a deal where, I'm going to end up owing my fucking soul and my firstborn soul to,
Yeah, they can try and talk me into it at the end of the day, but I still swing a hammer and pound nails for a living. So I'll take my tool belt and I'll go wherever I need to, and then I'll play songs at night, bud. Yeah. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean,
I've always been a working class guy that played music. Mm-hmm. We have to make obviously you guys have families. You have to make those budgets and dividends meet before you can have fun with your music. So for people to be like, oh, well, I went out, it's like, okay, well, that's cool. I would always be like, okay, if I had a band and, we made it big and some record label was like, oh, well, we definitely want to do this, and this with you. Maybe when I was young, I'd be all for it because we all grew up watching all those bands. Like you just said, MCR and everybody, Silverstein blowing up. But at the end of the day, like, I used to go head up the merch that we had for my old band. My best friend did all the graphic designing for any design we had. I paid him in cash, so he was paid. I went to local Axum Printing, Brock Kramer, right on Earl, right down the road.
Yeah.
Best prices I've ever had on t-shirts. I've even got quotes from him and his dad to where if I bought something like a set of hats, like a printed or stitched hats, and I couldn't sell them, bring them back in, we'll retalk a price. Nice. Literally, and I was a first ever
But
customer.
see, that's what happens when you work with a local person and you do it yourself. Like, I mean, we could go on forever about it.
It's like this. Do you want to be greedy or what? So when you go to shows, what do you pay for a t-shirt? $20 plus always, right?
Yeah.
I had a 3/4 raglan style baseball tee with a print on the front.
Yeah, I remember.
Big.
I remember that.
They're iconic.
Oh yeah.
There's some out there, but
I never managed to actually get my hands on one, so maybe I can work a deal with you.
I can go talk to Brock and we can get another batch printed.
I never managed to get my hands on one before.
I need a clean one anyway with no stains on it. But,
I never managed to get one before they were like gone. So
you would pay for a regular t-shirt $20 plus, a regular t-shirt, and this was a 3/4 tee with the red sleeves, and you got the dark blue just to match the whole Pabst Blue Ribbon, look.
Yeah.
I literally sold those for $12. That's what I asked for them, and I never asked for more after that. I was like, $12 is a good fee to me. I wasn't even making what I was making $2 less than what I paid for them to be printed.
Well, that's like we had.
I was only making $5 a t-shirt. That's what I was making. I was paying $7, and I was making $5. Yeah. So, 12.
You were kind of
right there. That's basically
when I invested money into like our first shirts that we had done.
I wanted to get it close to doubling the amount, but I didn't want to make it to where we looked arrogant.
Exactly, but the problem we ran into with
sold
ours.
Every t-shirt the first show.
See, we ran into the other problem, which was that like nobody was. I still have a box full of shirts that we had, and they're badass looking shirts too. Like if I do say so myself, they're pretty sick looking shirts, but nobody bought them. And I even priced them down to where it was like, but yet again, I was the idiot who was like, I don't have time to shop around locally. I'm just going to go through an online company. I
didn't even have the time. I just got the reference from my friend.
I went through, I won't even name names because, don't want to give them shout outs. They don't sponsor the show. But like I went through an online company to have them made, invested a certain amount of money into having so many made. I asked around to kind of get a feel from other bands that I knew, like kind of the sizes that they tended to sell a lot, the most of. And so I ordered in that range because I only had so much I was willing to spend. And I bought, I don't even remember exactly how many there were, but I still have a shit ton of these shirts left because nobody would. And the thing is part of it is because the price was kind of high because I had to make it high enough that I was at least making back what I put into it. Because I was stupid enough to spend the money on having them print. And I mean, the print's great. They look really good. But like, to me, it was like, now I'm sitting on this box of shirts that like we've toted to every fucking show we've done since I've had them and cannot get rid of them because I had, what's going to happen now is that I'm going to have to start pricing them below cost just to get rid of them. And we've even given some of them out.
I'll just take one off your hands if you need to get rid of them that bad. But... No, those, I pretty much came up with the idea in the t-shirt because we played with Shitty Neighbors at Skeletoons, and I went up and bought their t-shirt. Mm-hmm. Now, what sold me on that t-shirt was 3/4 raglan baseball tee. Everybody loves, right?
Yeah, classic.
This one, Shitty Neighbors, right on the front. I'm like, so badass. But it says it in the Schlitz malt liquor lighting.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no way. And then it has the number 16 on the back.
I love a good like parody band tee.
I'm just like that's so cool, right? And I bought it. And right when I bought it, I was like, awesome. We took it home and I was like, what if we did the same thing? Because what they did was took a label that everybody can,
It's an iconic label,
Yeah.
They can all, we know exactly what that is. They can all.
Thank God for parody laws.
And so I was
like controversy.
I was like, all right, let's do the same thing, but we all drink Pabst Blue Ribbon, an old style, so let's do a Pabst Blue Ribbon, and then it didn't matter, the price didn't change on the t-shirts for the color of the sleeves, so I was like, well, fuck it, we got red, white, and blue, let's do it like that. It goes with any Cubs uniform, goes with anything with the American flag on it, like, it was genius. I spent $120 on our order. We played Cheers Pub, South Bend. I sold every t-shirt that night at that show. $348 cash was for the merch. And I was like, was that a good idea? And everybody was like, yes. I was like, well, like, people were coming up to the band that we were playing with, and they're a real, like, established band. Phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal band. Well, then they see, $20 for a regular print on a regular tee, and then I look at ours, and they're like $12.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
like,
chances
I feel
are
like
it's
I
probably
get more for my buck.
Yeah, well, and chances are it was probably a similar thing where they probably went through somebody where they had to go by their cost, and they're looking at we spent this much money to have these made, so we got to make this much to make it back.
But also look at this. I made a short deal. I only invested $120 on one design. They had like 3 or 4 designs and all these T-shirts and a thing they had to open. So I had like 120 max. Those things sold like hotcakes. They were gone. The stickers were gone. Everybody wanted them. It was like, bam, dude. I was like, legit. All right, that was so worth it. And right after that, then we got another order, and they were gone. Even if I had a cop that wanted one. Come on, man. A cop that I knew when I was a kid. He's like, that's your band, dude? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, get a 3XL. Like, sweet. It was just cool. Like, what?
Well, man, we've been doing this for a little while now. We should probably start wrapping up.
That's all right.
So, are you going to be doing anything soon? Any shows? Any working on any new material? Anything like that?
I'm always writing, always doing that, but that's basically just me in my spare time. What I get in between, with the family life. I mean, I don't have a family, but I do have a dog, and she is my family.
She's your baby. She's a sweetheart.
Oh, dude, well, she just had that emergency surgery. This is the second time I've had emergency surgery with her, so that's why I had to reschedule all of this. Not this week, but it was not this last Sunday, the Sunday before that she went in.
She's a sweetheart, too.
Well, because I wanted to get everything together and work on stuff, but I woke up, her uterus was infected. We had a lot of blood everywhere. I just had to take her to the doctor, and then I was like, I have a whole week to get her, and then she had to get her stitches out Monday, so I had to kind of heal her back from that. She's still growing hair and all that, so she's coming back too, so that's why I kind of had to reschedule with this. But I'm definitely trying to I want to get involved, like I said, with Kenny, of course, but he keeps talking about stuff. I know he needs to get something going. If not, I'll probably just
he's running out of time.
I know, I'm just probably gonna put the set list together and be like, Kenny, what do you got going on? It's like, here.
By the time this is going to air probably in early November, probably I think second week of November, probably.
We'll see, and
he's going to have some time. By the time this comes out, he'll have still some time before the end of the year.
I also don't always go out there and ask for shows. I don't want to feel like that person that's nagging at somebody and being like, hey, man, you think I can get on this? You got to get on this? Like, I love playing music, but I don't want to be the guy that's begging to play music. I would like for somebody to be like, hey, man, you think you play a couple songs? Like, we like your stuff. Like, cool. Well, now that I know that somebody wants to hear it, then I'm going to feel good about playing it. But if I'm just asking you,
that means like whatever camera he's got going on right now, I don't know which one he's got going. But like, we definitely need to like make sure that shit's, being booked. We could book this dude.
Oh, I'll definitely play any show. I would love to get back out there. I mean, I live downtown.
You heard his shit. Book him.
I'm ready to play anything. It's just
that's what I love about this too. Is it gets a view of how you perform and everything out there. So hopefully some connections are made from it.
I hope so too, and I hope something comes out of it. And like I was telling you earlier, I hope something comes where somebody says, well, we like what you did with the drums and the bass. Can we get you to play that?
Well, like I told you earlier, if you have something come up and I'm free and you need me to come and play, I'll play.
I'll come get you guys. And, even if it's something where, I work it out to where it's like we're just playing for free, I'll make it worth it to you. Always, always.
I'm not even worried about that. To me, at this point, it's about it goes back to what we were talking about before, like this band family, this musician family of we're all here for each other. Like it's all about supporting each other, because the truth, and if you want to look at it, and I don't even really look at it this way, but I guess if you wanted to look at it from a more selfish side, it's like, it's the, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, where it's like, I know that if I put in something to help somebody, more than likely it's going to come back around at some point when I need it. So it's like, you know, that's not necessarily where my head is most of the time. Honestly, right now with this, most of my thing, I'm super excited about just bringing people on.
Oh, absolutely.
And giving them somewhere to go, like, and having a chance for them to, like, so many of these bands that can't afford studio time, can't afford any of this kind of stuff, to have them come out. You know, we're not charging for studio time. We're not charging for any of that. It's like, you come out here, you play your 4 or 5 songs, 6 songs, whatever. We get that put together. We put it out there. Now you have something that you can send people to and be like, check this out. We were on this podcast. You can see us play here, listen to how we sound, and give them a platform for something.
And like, for me, it's not even about the podcast or anything. It's more about, you know, getting these bands exposure, like what I wish we would have had when we were going at it, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, you know, just like tonight, I mean, I made the joke to Zach that when I was recording bass and stuff, I was like a regular old studio musician. Like, I mean, and I'm cool with that at this point in my life. Like, I'll just sit back there and, you know, play whatever. I can play drums on a track,
to
or
be
bass
honest,
on a track.
I had so much fun. Like, when I came in a few days ago, because to be honest, it's only like, we've only been working on these songs for a couple of days before coming in.
Monday.
2 days.
2 days, literally.
I came in on Monday and
because you sent me the message. Hey, what do you think?
It was Saturday, and then I think you responded Sunday, and then with everything going on. But
my birthday and everything. And
Monday, I came in. I came in here Monday for a little bit and tracked the drums to the demo versions so that you could have a kind of a chance to hear what I was thinking and see if you liked it or whatever. And I had so much fun doing it, because it was like, oh, this is, you know, for one, it was like, I don't get a chance that often to play drums for things anymore. Like, I mean, I do it on my own time when I'm here, but like, you know, I don't play drums in any bands. So it's but it gave me a chance to do something that I love doing and I haven't really done in a while. And to play it to music that's like is super nostalgic to me, like that feel, that vibe. I'm like, oh, this is like, I literally had a blast just listening to the songs and playing them. And then, you know, so to me, I didn't care about to me, it's not about like showing off my abilities or making a platform for me. This was all about you and showcasing what your stuff is and how good your stuff is. And we just wanted to make it like even bigger, like showcase what it is and what it can be. Like, because the songs are solid on their own, even as acoustic versions. But like,
it was how mediocre as they are. I mean, they're not anything
little
crazy.
Humble brag going on.
Don't let me act like that stuff's
no. But I honestly like
or anything. It's just something I like to do.
And like I told you, my 8-year-old, after listening to these songs while I was kind of playing them ad nauseum to kind of get them stuck in my head, he already started singing your stuff. An 8-year-old was like singing your stuff. Like he had it catched it, like it was in his head. He was singing it. It was like, and I'm like, to me, I've kind of used him as one of my, this sounds bad, but he's always been somebody that I've kind of gone to for things. Like if it catches to him, then it's like, this is probably going to be pretty catchy to anyone. Because if an 8-year-old can hear it and it gets stuck in their head and they're singing it, who's not going to? Like, and so I got to tell you, like, you've got my 8-year-old's approval. Like he liked it. He was singing along to it.
I'm so obliged. That's awesome. Like, just to have any approval, I mean, at any time, especially with a young audience, like that right there is just like when, you know, a younger person is like, oh, you know, you're my favorite singer. It's like, what?
Right.
I have nobody. Like,
dude, I've had musicians.
Get you an instrument.
I've had other musicians come up to me in bands that like I won't necessarily name names, but there were some bands that came out of this area that were like super proficient, like especially coming from like the metal side, because I played in a lot of metal bands. But there was one in particular that the guys from this band, and they are super good, like they're really technical. That I had some of those guys come up to me one time and was like you guys, when I was playing with ACDN, he's like, you guys inspired us to pick up instruments and start playing. I'm like, no, there's no fucking way. Like, because we compared to what they do, we were like, shit. No way. Like, they are super proficient. Like we were talking earlier with like the proggy metal stuff, where it's like super complex and technical. And I'm just like, you were influenced by us? Like, we weren't that great. Come on. I mean, like, no, like we went to your shows. They were badass. They were an inspiration. Like, that's why we started playing as a band. That's why we became a band.
That was a real like weird thing for me when Todd and I went up to see Crucible up in South Bend, and they were playing with a band that was out of Peoria. I mean, this place is packed, and you know, Crucible was a lot of the guys from We Came as Romans, and so we're hanging out with them. I was hanging out with Dave and everyone up there, and we were talking to the bands afterwards, and these guys were like, "Oh yeah, we're from Peoria." I said, "Oh yeah, we played the shithole place in Peoria one time," and
I think you talked about it on the last podcast.
Yeah,
I think you might. The venue. I think you might have said something about the venue.
No, that was a different one.
Oh, okay.
This one was near Peoria. There was no...
Not going to put it on blast.
No, there was no extracurricular activities to that level.
Oh, yeah, so different story.
Yeah. So, the drummer from that band, I was telling him how awesome he was and stuff, and we were just talking. I said, yeah, we played this shithole place in Peoria one time, or it was just outside of Peoria, and he like names off this name. I go, that was it. And he's like, I used to go there all the time. What band were you in? And I told him I was in California Caller at the time. He's like, and he starts naming off stuff. I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, I was at that show, and your guys' energy on that stage is what made me
Was that the one you guys played where there was like hardly anybody there?
We had the big sign from that we had in that.
Yeah, I heard about it. Like, I obviously I didn't. We
played there with Grayson,
all the way out there to see it, but yeah,
those guys,
Grayson, those guys,
and he's like, dude, your guys' energy on that stage is what made me get into this music. And I'm like,
yeah,
this is weird because you were on such a higher level than we ever could have dreamed about being.
Did you ever have the weird thing? Did you ever have somebody like recognize you yet? Like from any of the bands you've been in? Like somebody you didn't know, but just randomly was like, oh, hey, I had that happen one time back in the ACDN days. We were like walking down a street, like in our hometown. Somebody I did not know whatsoever drove by and was like, hey, like, we know you, like, you're, whatever. And I was like, this is weird. Like, I don't know you.
I have a couple times heard, that's that singer from Wolves on Bears. I'm just like, yeah, you're right. Like, but that was it. I've never really had anybody be like, oh,
that's like the weirdest feeling ever.
I seen your acoustic set, or your solo acoustic,
I think one of the things that we need to do with you is we need to get you in here to get an actual like legit EP put out. And so you can like start getting back in the scene more.
Yeah.
Like I want to see you in the scene more. That was the thing. Like when I thought like I wanted to bring you on here and everything, it was like, from listening to your stuff, like the things that you were posting just of you on your cell phone, like recording stuff. And I was like, we got to get Chris on here. I got to get him out playing again.
I would love to. I think it's fun. I just, like I said, the community used to be so more tight knit and more of a revolving door. So anytime somebody had a show and they needed somebody, or if remember when you're in a band, you're like, man, we need like somebody to cover 2 hours, or at least 2 people to cover 2 hours. You're like, all right, homeboy. And then you call your other homeboy or whoever I don't
know how many times
whoever that it doesn't matter that their band's the biggest, baddest band. It's just that that your buddy's in that band and they're a solid band and they can get you done.
I don't know how many times we played with Pain Is Our Forgiveness and Chantry and Lawnmower Incident and If Forever Were a Day and Ice Cream
for Ice Cream.
Yeah, I mean, all those bands. I mean,
there was a family that we all created in that, like, and I still talk to a lot of those guys to this day. Like, even though we've all kind of like
Lawnmower Incident, Richie Stanball. The drummer, way back in the day, I played in band with him at Benton Central. Literally.
Well, Butcher was.
Yeah, and then Butcher played drums for him. Yeah. I was like,
Richie picking up his hi-hat off the ground and just hitting
like, that's
kicking his stuff over.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy days.
I mean, we played that show at the spot
was in like middle school.
Because they, and we talked about them yet again last podcast, but they
Red Tails.
yeah, they became Red Tail. Like three of the guys out of a Lawnmower Incident started a band called Red Tail, and they're fucking amazing. Like they are great. And I've been bugging Butcher and trying to get them on here because I want them on here. But yeah.
But anyway, thanks for coming on episode 2.
Oh,
Yeah, he
sure
used to be our
appreciate
second artist on here.
I'm number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, deuces, number 2. I
Number
love
2 in the
that.
trailer park, right?
I don't ever want to be
Yeah, number 2 in the trailer
yeah.
park.
2 chord. What was it? 2 chord king.
Yeah,
or
2 chord king.
chord trailer park king. Yeah, because I came up with the name right there on the spot. But yeah, I would rather be second than first.
Get all the bugs out of the way. That
Silver's way cooler than gold. Yeah, that's me.
I always like silver more than gold.
See?
Always.
Call me crazy.
All right.
But yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
having me.
we'll definitely bring you back on again. And like, seriously, people, like, you need to book this guy. Get him in your bars, your clubs, whatever.
Just
Like,
don't get them into your pants.
I don't know about that.
I know you guys got some, beer drinking people who like to listen to some acoustic.
As long as they don't scream out, play Freebird.
Well, they can scream that out, and I'll just be like, all right, well, last song, and then I'll play something else. And then I'll do. Hold on, I'll play that in a second. And then I'll be like, oh, second act's coming up.
Well, we want to thank you for being on here, man. And it was great. I'm glad I got a chance to.
I'm so
work
glad
on
I
your
got a
stuff.
chance away from work to do something fun tonight. Last 2 nights been up till 11:30 just working, and I'm just like, man, can I do something that I want to do? And this is
We
it.
also want to give a shout out to Ben Smith, who's been cool enough to run our cameras and stuff tonight, last minute.
Heck yeah.
Because, normally during band stuff, like, we're the ones behind the scenes running stuff. But since we decided to
He's
help
doing
you out.
great, too.
Yeah, we
went right up
got
when
Ben
that
to come
camera
in
turned off.
and
He was
help
like,
us out. A different Ben this time, because last time we had my
Your
brother,
Ben.
Benny,
Your
my
Ben.
brother. This is a different Ben.
Yeah.
but
I haven't seen Ben in a while. I need to see him.
we want to thank Benny and Ben for helping us out with this and making it a fun time. But
All right. I think that's a wrap on episode 2.
that's it, guys. We want to cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.